Hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. In this video, we are going to learn how to make this basque waist peplum top that has a yoke and also a front button. Okay, we're going to learn every detail on how to make the front of this dress and also the back of it. So if that is what you want to learn how to make for yourself, then keep watching this video to the very end and let's get straight to it. Firstly, you'll be needing your basic bodice front from top to your blouse length. Okay, so you need your bust point line, your waistline, and of course the length of your blouse and your waist dart and of course your side bust dart. Now I'm removing 1 inch from my shoulder. For the depth of my neckline, you can decide to use whatever you want to use. I'm going to be using my chest line for the depth of my dress, like the depth of my neckline. Okay, so I'm connecting that 1 inch to my chest line point to form the V neckline. So we're now going to trace out that curve defect, and in order to do that, from my bust point, I'm going to be taking 2 inches all the way around. You can decide to use your the distance between your bust to your under bust, all right, as if you're making a corset, but here I'm using 2 inches. Remember, it's going to be lower because I reduced it. I'm using 2 inches, it's going to be lower. So the point that I marked, I'm going to be joining them together like so. Now at this point, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing. Click the bell notification icon so YouTube tells you whenever I post lovely tutorials like this. You can also go ahead to check other videos we have on the channel. Please do want to share this video to other sewing tutorials where you feel they'll be needed and where they will help other people learn how to make this particular dress or one other dress that is linked to this one. Thank you. So now as you can see, I use the faint marker. I use a faint pencil to do this, or a pen. I'm going to use the marker to highlight it so you guys can see it clearly. At this point, this is what your pattern should look like. So I'm going to be marking from the midpoint of my shoulder. I'm connecting it to my bust point like so. Now you remember that the neckline, the V neckline, is actually a deep one, so we're going to contour it so it does not gap. Now to contour it from those points, I'm marking a straight line to the bust point like so. So I'm going to be marking my bust arc, which is the distance between your bust point and under bust. And on top of the bust arc is going to be sitting my dart intake for this contour dart. For your contour dart, you're going to be taking in 0.5 inches, 0.5 inch, okay, and you're connecting it to the bust point and back to the neckline like so. Now for the basque waist effect, I'm marking from my center point 2 inches towards the inside like so. I'm going to be curving from here, from my waistline, to meet that 2 inches point. So I'm going to use my marker to highlight it. Sorry I didn't use my marker to highlight the contour, okay? But please listen attentively, you understand what I'm doing. So now we're going to start manipulating the dart. And the first thing I'm going to cut open is my side bust dart. Now the next thing I'm going to cut open is the contour, the neckline contour dart. Okay, I'm going to cut it open, close up the dart and transfer the excess to the side bust dart. Now the line that I marked for my neckline has broken because of the contour dart. I'll go ahead to redraw it and cut out the neckline like so. I also go ahead to cut out this very part. So we have the yoke separate from the bodice. Now for the basque waist effect, I'm going to have to start cutting it out like so. Now you remember the line that went from the midpoint of the shoulder to the bust point? That is what I highlighted with my marker. So that is the line there, can you see? And that is the line I'm going to be using to create my shoulder princess dart, my shoulder princess seam. I'll cut that line open, close the side bust dart and transfer all the dart excesses to that style line there. Then I'll go ahead to cut out the waist dart up onto the bust point. So I'm going to be smoothing this part out, like curving it out. So these are all your patterns put together. Now we're going to work on that basque waist effect. Remember, it is gathered. We need fullness to make it have that peplum effect. So remember, there's a dart that went in there. Okay, we have to close up that dart and open it at the hem to add more fullness to the hem. You want to watch carefully what I'm doing, please. I'll go ahead and tape it, close up the dart, and then using my cello tape, I'll tape it down. I'll go ahead now and start cutting out. So I haven't cut this now. I'm going ahead to label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then I'll get a fresh pattern paper and place them on the fresh pattern paper. I'll spread them out, sorry, on a fresh pattern paper for more fullness. So now, in order to get more fullness by the side, I added extra 2 inches by the side. I'm going to be curving it inwards like so. I went ahead to connect to that 2 inches point and I curved out my hem like so. So now I'm trying to put them together to show you guys what it's going to look like. Can you see the peplum part of it? This is what it's going to look like. So here is the yoke for the front. Now we'll set every part of this front aside except the center front so we can add the button to it. So on the front, on the center front, I'm going to be adding 1 inch for my button allowance. Now I taped a fresh pattern paper and from my original pattern I went ahead to start marking 1 inch all the way down like so. I used my ruler to connect those dashed lines together. Short lines together, sorry. I used my ruler to connect them together. So now this is what your center front should look like with your button allowance on it. All right, I'm gonna have to draw in this part so you know that this is where your button will sit. Now heading over to the back, which is actually very simple. I got the yoke for the front. Okay, so we know the length of the shoulder, or how many inches we need for the shoulder. I placed it to the shoulder of the back, and I used my pen to mark the point where I won't be needing. Then I went ahead to check the depth of my neckline. I marked 1 inch. I connected it to that point that I marked. I went ahead to use my scissors to cut it out so I can have my new neckline for the back. Now from the waistline, we're going to be separating this pattern upper and lower bodies. Please, we are not basking the back. Okay, you don't have to bask the back. So now for the upper part of the back, I'm cutting out the dart. All you have to do for this dart is just sew it up, like stitch it up, okay? Now remember that this is our center back and you are to cut your center back on fold. Of course, it's a button down dress or a button down top, okay? So your center back, you're to cut it on fold. Please take note of that. So we'll set it aside so we can work on the lower part of the back. Now we need a peplum, a gathered peplum effect for the lower part of the back, and this is how we're going to achieve that. I'm going to head now to close up my dart, okay? So I haven't done this now. I'm going ahead now to start cutting out. I did not actually mark like a guideline where I'm going to be cutting on, but I know, of course, I know what I'm going to be cutting on. Also, this is the center back. You're to cut on fold for the peplum effect of the lower back, okay? You're to cut on fold. I labeled this so you guys will understand. I went ahead to start cutting this out. And I labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'll get a fresh pattern paper and then I'll place this on top of the fresh pattern paper, like so. I also added that 2 inches by the side, like we did for the front, and I'm going to be connecting it like so. Then I went ahead to shapen out the hem of my blouse, or of my peplum. I'm going ahead now to cut out the parts of this paper which we do not need. So now this is what the peplum of the back looks like, okay? I actually added that, that extra so you can just gather it since we are gathering, like we need more fullness, right? So I just added it so you can gather it. And then I went ahead to start forming the gather. We are going to be fixing the gather to this part of the back, all right? So like I said, you're going to be sewing up this dart for your back. So I went ahead to tape it down. And then I'll be gathering this on the waist to fit the waist of the upper back. Remember your center back, you're cutting on fold, both for the peplum and the upper part of the back. You're cutting on fold. So this is what the back looks like, all right? And here is a quick rephrase of what the front looks like. All right, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.